Some people have seen where God has brought you from. They don't really understand it. They don't know your story.
Hello, and welcome to You Don't Know My Story, a monthly TV show where people comes on and just talk about their everyday life, their ups, their downs, the good times and the bad times. We're going to start off today like we usually always do, talking about what's going on in the world today. First of all, we want to talk about the pandemic. It's still crazy. People still getting sick. People still not knowing what they're supposed to do, wearing their masks in public. People just doing anything that they want to do. Until they change, nothing will change. And then we're going to talk about the fires over in California. My God, my God. Read the book of Revelations, and it's all in there. But, you know, it's what it is. It's what the world is today, what's going on in the world. Talk about Black Lives Matter. Things are still crazy with that also. But now, we got the NFL, we got the NBA, we got everyone getting involved in this because they know all lives matter, but Black lives definitely matter. So all I want to say is we just got to do better than what we're doing. And with that, we'll be right back.
Hello, I got a delivery for DB. Anybody home? Oh, hey, here's your food.
Step away from the door. You will put the food on the ground. Wear a mask. Your powers are weak. You don't know the power of COVID-19. Now go.
Daddy, where's my food?
Oh, I'm coming.
Welcome back. Boy, do we have a show for you today. We have a young lady that's out of this world. Matter of fact, she's a pastor's wife. She's also an attorney. And she's a recording artist. She's been all the way to Japan and back. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Miss Patricia Wilkinson. Hey, Miss Wilkinson.
Hi, Cortez.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm blessed and highly favored. It's so
Good.
glad to see you.
I'm glad to see you
All
as well.
right, all
and
right.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, ma'am. There's so many things been happening for you, huh?
Oh my goodness, I never would have thought all these things were going to be happening, but it's a result of doing some hard work.
All
and,
right.
Yep, and
Well,
being steadfast.
Well, that's how we get it, by doing hard work. But I am just so glad to see you and glad to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Now, like I tell all my guests, I don't ask a lot of questions unless you get stuck. If you don't get stuck, you can go, because I know you can talk. I know you can. Because once we get going, we don't stop. So, without any further ado, Ms. Wilkinson, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you, Cortez. And again, thank you actually for allowing me to come today. I'm really excited about being here, and I'm excited to be able to share my story with what happened and how things worked out in my life. So first of all, as he said, I'm an attorney. I have been practicing for some time now, and I am really excited about talking to you about my firm. I work for the Vanoy firm, and I'll give you the information about our firm soon. But just to let you know that I do all kinds of areas of law. One of them is personal injury, and I really want to talk about the law firm and my practice for a little bit. Personal injury, if you've slipped and fell somewhere, if you're in a car accident, medical malpractice, if you've had some kind of surgery and think the doctor hasn't treated you quite right and the care isn't right, then contact me as well. The other thing I really like to talk to our community about is wills and trusts, probate. A lot of people think I don't have a lot of assets, so I don't need to have a will, but I find that that is not the case. And if there's a consultation, if you call me for a consultation, we talk about what your assets are and what it is that I can do to help you. And one last thing that people don't think about with regard to estates and probate is a power of attorney. And what that is you're actually giving somebody authority to act on your behalf if something happens to you. If for some reason you're in an accident and you're incapacitated, if you have assets and they're only in your name, there's nothing that they can do on your behalf. So it's really hard to combat that. If you do, you'll have to go to probate court, which takes a lot of time, which costs a lot of money. So I really encourage our people and our communities to just really look into the fact that it's important to take care of our business. And a lot of people think that if I do a will, I'm getting ready to die. That is not the case. You're simply taking care of your business. So I enjoy helping with that. I also help with adoptions. I have actually a couple of families that I'm working with them. One of the gifts I'm trying to give one of my families for Christmas is the adoption. So we're working on that. And then guardianship. Sometimes your mother or your family member might need a guardian. They may need to be a ward of the state. And so if you want to be a guardian, I can assist with that as well. So there are a lot of areas of law that I work in. And to talk about the reason why I actually decided to go into law. Years ago, I wanted to do it, but the season didn't seem right. And not to be too spiritual, I like Galatians 6 and 9. And it says, be not weary in well-doing, for in due season you'll reap if you faint not. Now the key to that is reaping, because you can't reap anything if you haven't sown anything, right? So you have to really start working towards whatever your goal is and whatever your aspirations are. And a lot of people have those aspirations and think they're too old, they're not educated enough, they're too young to accomplish that. And I want to share with you that you are not too old, you are not too young, you are not uneducated. You can do whatever you have been placed in the earth to do. Whatever you've been purposed to do, you can do it. So I started out actually years ago just working as a paralegal and then just working with different firms in the area to try to actually get better at what I was doing. So you learn all about the other law firms. You learn how attorneys worked with clients, and I think that really helped me a lot. And so now I can call myself an attorney. Passing the bar was a big deal. It was hard, it was difficult, but if you work hard enough, you can accomplish your goals, and I believe that you can. So that's just my area as far as law is concerned.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's get into that just a little bit. When it comes to black people. Now, we don't, unless we done committed a crime. Something like that. And we don't have to go to the lawyer just beyond the fact that we committed a crime. What can you say to our people to get them to understand that it's more to being a lawyer than, committing a crime? Well, some things we need to know that aren't being told to us.
Right, and the nature of being a lawyer, actually, people come to you when they're in trouble. So is there a need? If there is a need, then you'll find you'll have to come to an attorney. But you're right. Now, I have to say I do criminal work as well. So if you need that, I can help you with that as well.
Now I think they want to hear that.
But I think that's a go-to for people, because when I'll hand out my business cards, they're looking at me like, okay, and sometimes you want to say criminal first. And that's actually a taboo, right? When you go to when you're speaking to an African American or something, you give them a card, you're like, well, I do criminal. It's not even good to think that way, because you don't necessarily need a criminal if you're a criminal attorney, and that may not even be the nature. But like I said before, you might have an older parent, or even young people who are progressing in their lives, who make good money. if you have assets, if you have assets that are only in your name, you're in trouble.
Right.
Because if something happens to you, nobody can do anything with those assets. And so what has to happen with the attorneys in the community is we have to educate our community that it's not just because you're a criminal, but it's because you've got assets. You got a car, and a lot of times we'll think, I don't have any money, but you have a car, you have personal possessions in your home that you'd be surprised at people who want those things.
Right.
You have parents who need a will done. You have, there are all kinds of areas. You're in a car accident. People get in car accidents. They have surgeries, and they end up with complications as a result of the surgery.
Right.
And sometimes they may think, well, you know, I signed this waiver and that's all I can do. Call an attorney. That may not be all that you can do. So let us help you. And I think the thing for us as attorneys is to go around and actually verbalize to our communities that it's not just a criminal issue that you might have. There are all kinds of areas that we can help you in. And so that's my goal as I become an attorney, is that I actually educate our people to let us know that we have the same benefits that other people have. We have the same resources that other people have, but we just don't actually reach out to those resources.
Right. You know, one of the things that I do find out is that black families, they don't really contact lawyers unless it's a criminal. Okay, but I'm sure it's other means that that black families need to learn about as far as, okay, like say if you have a mother and father and they pass, and you got siblings. That's when the fights start.
Exactly.
You know, start fighting over everything.
Yes.
So what can you say to, or how can you put them in a position to prepare themselves for that?
That's exactly what we're talking about, right? And it's the fact that they don't understand it. So it's important for me. So let's say, for example, a client does come in with a criminal issue, and a lot of it is, and I'm not necessarily, it actually evolves. So one of our conversations is, and I think it's astute for us as attorneys to look at the families and say we're a holistic resolution for them. We're not just for the criminal side of it. As their grandparent come in, I'll look and start talking to the grandparent and say, now, do you have a will? And then I find out, well, how many other children are there? Well, you know what will happen if you don't have a will and all these children are involved, and I see it all the time. Because a lot of people will say, oh, no, so-and-so isn't that way. They won't argue about what they, oh, yes, they, I've seen it. They'll argue about a purse, if you know what I mean? Especially if it's a Gucci. They'll argue about that purse. So the best thing to do is for us, and I always put it on it's on us, it's incumbent upon us, because we're here to educate our community. So when they come in with other issues, any kind of issue they may come in, I'm still spotting what others, areas that they need. There was someone that came in and it was a workers' comp. I do workers' comp law as well. I can help with workers' comp. And she had a workers' comp issue and she couldn't get it resolved. It actually, I could tell mentally this was bothering her. So she needed counseling.
Okay.
So it was a way of me saying, not only is this injury bothering you, but if you can get some kind of counseling for what's going on with your issue, that would help you as well. And then you would look at this workers' comp situation differently. Then I say, as an attorney, let me handle it so you don't have to worry about. I know the ins and outs of workers' comp. You don't know, so all you worry about is getting well. And that's our position, and that's where we need to be as attorneys in the community. We have to spot these things because you don't know what you don't know. So if you're in there and you don't think you need a will and you don't know that you need a will, it's up to me to say, as I talk to and consult with our clients, you know what, you actually need a will. And then explain to them, what does it mean to have a will? A power of attorney. People will say, I really don't need that. They're all different kinds. There's a durable power of attorney, and that's to handle your financial affairs. There's a healthcare power of attorney, and that's to handle your health care, to say when you can't do it. But if people don't know, they don't know to ask. So it's incumbent, I'm going to go back to the education of the lawyers, to talk to our clients and share with them. Even if they came in with one problem, just make sure they don't have other problems, and if they do, to address them with regard to those problems.
Well, let me ask you another question. As far as black kids are concerned, in high school, junior high school, if you had the opportunity to actually go into a school to talk to a group of students, how could you get them interested in becoming a lawyer? Because because look, hey, They either want to be a basketball player, football player. I don't really know what the girls want to be. But
What the girls want to do.
But I'm just saying, how could you, interest them into about becoming a lawyer?
Okay, that's a good question. And I think probably what the best thing would be to do for younger kids is to actually bring them into that environment. And so what we do, we'll sometimes actually have some youth come in and just tour us or just shadow us. A courtroom is so interesting. And we don't have as many court cases or many trials as we used to. The courts are really getting more into settling cases prior to trial, but even the steps going towards a trial is really interesting. A deposition is interesting when you're like deposing and asking questions of the parties. That's really interesting. So what we've been doing, and we've had actually a couple of people come through our office, and they shadow us just to see if it's something that they would like to do.
Okay.
The interesting thing is that there's so many different areas. So we've got one lawyer in the office. He doesn't like confrontation.
Okay.
So what he does is the kind of attorney work that's more paper driven.
Right.
And he kind of do a trial or a hearing here or there, but it's usually not very confrontational.
Okay.
Then you've got like some people that get me in a trial and let me argue my case. So for different personalities, I mean, law can lead you into so many other aspects of what you want to do. So I think what I probably would say to young kids is at least take a look at it. Come into the office, shadow attorneys. There's some great female, male, Hispanic, African American, all kinds of attorneys now that they can shadow and just see if this is something that I want to do. The path to becoming an attorney is hard work. I will say that.
Okay.
It's hard work. It's very hard work. And it's funny because you can actually major. You can have your bachelor's in anything. It can be in knitting.
Right.
But and then you can still go to law school. So there's no prerequisite to that. But once you do get in law school, there's an entrance exam that you have to take. You have to score a certain score to get into law school.
Okay.
And once you get in it, it's really hard work. There's a 2-year program now, and then there's a 3-year, and I do advise the 3-year because you need time to for the summer just to take a break and not think about anything.
Right.
So you have to really go into it with the fact that, I don't mind working hard. It's something that I really want to do. And if it's not a passion, then I wouldn't advise going into it. Because you find yourself really weary in well-doing because you won't so into it because it's really hard work. But for young people, I just encourage them. I want to get around more of them, talk to more of them about it because we can change things through the law.
Right.
We actually can. We can submit and try to help that new laws are written in our favor.
Okay.
But if we don't do it from that level, we won't get it done. We also have to vote.
Okay.
Yeah, right? We got to vote. That's part of it as well.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of interesting aspects of law that I think a young person would really enjoy.
Well, what is the worst part about being a lawyer?
It's tedious. It's tedious. So, okay, if somebody came in and said, I was driving and he stopped me and he said I was, it was an OVI and I was drunk and so what we have to do is investigate that. Okay. So the tedious part of it is the discovery. Okay, so you say you weren't. Let's get the dash cam. Let's get all the paperwork. You've got to read everything. You can't gloss over anything. You got to read the crash report. So legal work is tedious work. So if you don't like that kind of work, you're not going to like it because you really are investigating. So how can I actually change this in my client's favor? How can I view it differently? And actually recently we had a case where we found case law that actually was in our client's favor and got them off. So, but you have to do a lot of research and you have to do a lot of writing. It's a lot of writing involved. It's very thought-provoking because you always have to be listening in a different way. Law school, they say, they teach you how to think. That's what law school teaches you how to do. And it's because you are evaluating a situation differently than another person would. And, okay, I'm getting in the weeds a little bit, and some people may turn down, right? But it's so funny, believe it or not, it's called IRAC, right? That's the way we think. First, there's an issue. What's the issue? there's a rule about that issue. Okay, a battery is a harmful or offensive contact. If I hit you and it's a harmful or offensive contact to you, then I've committed a battery. So that's the rule. The analysis, what happened? I pushed you. So when I pushed you, it was harmful or offensive, it was a contact. And then the conclusion is, all right, so I committed a battery. Every single thing somebody comes in and talks to us about, that's what we're thinking when they're talking to us. Okay, what's the issue? Okay, that's the issue. You got a workers' comp, you fell and you were hurt on your job. What's the rule? Well, the rule says if you're hurt on your job, you may be entitled to workers' comp. Analysis, how did it happen? Okay, was it something that you did that might negate the fact that that your employer is responsible for that? That might be your issue, right? So you look at the analysis of it, and the conclusion is, you know what? Maybe you did. Maybe you do have a good workers' comp claim. So let me help you with that. So that's what law school just teaches you. Everything you're doing, and you find even when you're like fussing with your husband or your wife. Wait a minute, let me go to Iraq. What's the issue? What's the rule? What's the analysis? The conclusion, I win. I win.
That's the funny part. I never thought about ever being married to a lawyer or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
But, just listening to you, and could I really handle that situation?
He can handle it. He can handle it.
Look, see me turning things around.
No, he can handle it. My husband has a psychology background, so he's like, no. We're like, oh, no.
Well, see, that's different, but I'm just saying, it sounds very interesting, but, the complications that comes with it, because sometimes, if you're into a real heavy case, and you got one of them husbands that, look, I'm losing attention because you're too busy playing lawyer. It ain't all like it seems on television. But it's good to know.
Right.
Because never knowing the ins and outs.
Right.
Because we see it in a different light.
Exactly.
Everybody doesn't see a lawyer as say someone that's in that field.
Right.
Because me not being a lawyer, not really knowing about how to be a lawyer, I see the different things that go on, but I think I was on a murder trial.
Oh, okay.
I was
a juror?
I was back in Philadelphia. This is back in the day. But I was an alternate, but I went through the whole 9 yards.
You have to listen just in case.
Seeing the murder weapon and all the stuff coming.
Oh my
God. And then I thought I was going to be there to help.
The deliberator.
Yeah, they do us. They boo us out.
Well, it's really interesting too. So you're talking about the ins and outs of being an attorney. The trial is really interesting too. And recently too, I was involved in a murder trial, just second chair, and wasn't really involved hands-on.
Right.
But it's really interesting. Sometimes it's heartbreaking, and the forensics side of it is really interesting.
Yeah.
So they have to tell you how the bullet went in, how the bullet came out, and show you the actual pictures of it. And it was so interesting. So a trial is really, they are just intriguing. But like I said, nowadays, it's a lot of settlements outside of trials, if you can get that. If there's a plea deal, if you can do a plea that's outside of trial, then a lot of times we'll do that. But if the client wants a trial, it's the client's, it's their decision.
Yeah, okay.
If they want, that's their constitutional right. If they want a trial, they get a trial. We'll help them with it as much as we possibly can. And if I can just go back to relationships, if I can do that, go back to relationships, it is really important. And that's not just being a lawyer. I think with whatever your occupation is, that there's a give and a take. And I think the best part of a person is that their significant other sees the best part of them and really tries to enhance that. And it actually helps the wholeness of the entire relationship. So, you're going to have issues. My husband and I are both of us are A types. Okay. So we're like, sometimes just totally at it. But I think I see the best in him, and he sees the best in me, and we work towards getting the best out of each other. So holistically, that we become the best. And so that our children see this is what it looks like. So our grandchildren see, okay, this is what that looks like. But it's not always it's not always easy.
As I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about Claire and Claire Huxtable and her husband. What was his
Doctor
name?
and lawyer.
Yeah, but the thing about it is how she always try to flip the script on this. she started putting him on trial.
That's easy to do.
So that, I mean, is that what y'all?
No. Well, sometimes.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I was just imagining. I can imagine what he really goes through
Yeah,
when you start flipping that script.
Sometimes.
Put him on trial real quick. See, you put him on trial, and then he gonna bring the Lord
I
down.
know. And you know what's funny to go? Okay, so it's funny. We were actually shopping the other day, and there, you know, he's a minister and he's a chaplain at the Monday, and someone that was at the Monday said, "Is that Chap?" And the mother was like, "I need a medical malpractice lawyer." So we're talking to both of the families, and he's talking about what he's doing in his ministry, and I'm talking about what I'm doing in the law. So that's what I'm saying. You really can work together. So I encourage couples to do that. It's not always easy, so that the man doesn't feel like, you know, he should have this particular role. I mean, bring the best out of each other,
Right.
and then you find that the best in each other, once you
Right.
bring the best out of each other, and you actually grow in that relationship.
right,
So we're going to get off of that.
All
Okay.
right. Hey, we ain't done yet. This is only one part. We'll be back after this message with another part. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Boy, that first part was a doozy. Hey, look, I thought I was on trial for a minute. But you know what? It's good to learn different things. So now we're going into another area of Mrs. Wilkinson, and that's her recording. She's a renowned singer, recording artist. She even been all the way to Japan. I ain't never been outside. But you know what? Now we're going to get into this. We're going to learn a little bit about her recording. So, Ms. Wilkinson?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, I actually grew up that way. I look at my mother and I say, it's your fault. Mama, it's your fault, because all of us actually in our family had to take piano lessons if we had an inkling of a desire to play or be in music. My mother just loved music, so she always had us, she paid for us to take piano lessons for years. And so we grew up. I have a brother that plays really well, and he's like toured all over the world. And so we've always been in the music industry.
Okay.
And so as I grew older, rather than going to college, I actually did traveling. So I traveled all over Las Vegas and Phoenix, everywhere, just with a group, trying to decide whether or not I wanted to do that. I ended up in Los Angeles, and I was at a club there, and an agent came in and said, "Do you want to go to Japan?" And I said, "Who wouldn't want to go to Japan?" And they actually paid for everything.
Well, wait a minute. But, I mean, that's a long way.
It's a long way.
Compared to where you live.
It is a long way.
I mean, Japan.
It's a
You
long-
wasn't even nervous or nothing?
Well, I'll tell you what, when I got there, it was raining, and I got off the plane, and we got in the taxi cab, and a steering wheel was on the other side of the car, and I was like, what in the world was I thinking? Like, this was like a whole, they read from the other way, you know, we read this way, they read the other way. I mean, everything, they drive on the other side of the road, everything was totally different.
Right.
But I've always been this way, so I'm learning. And my mother, and I say this is the reason, my mother traveled a little bit, and she went to New Orleans, and I was born in New Orleans when she actually lived somewhere else. I thought, well, maybe I just like traveling. So I went there, and it didn't bother me. I enjoyed it so much. I was able to do a lot of background vocals with Japanese artists. So we did a lot of concerts with them. The karaoke tapes that they would do there, we would do a lot of those. It was a great community too of musicians in Japan. So it wasn't like it was just me by myself. It was a lot of musicians at that time. So even Janet Jackson, she came there one time, and Janet came there one time, and she needed some background vocals for some.
What's up there?
Yeah, we didn't. Now we weren't really singing. We weren't really singing, but we were, you know, pantomizing. But it was really fun. And my daughter, she held my daughter. It was just a wonderful experience. I don't know, people may not even know George Duke, but George Duke, I met him. I met a lot of artists in Japan. And the wonderful thing about there too is that if you're not Japanese, you're a foreigner.
Right.
So there's no other kind of racism that was there. They just accepted you for what you were. They enjoyed being around you and learning about your culture. So I stayed there for almost 5 years, almost 5 years in Japan.
That's what I was getting ready to get into, because, you know, that's, I know the language difference. I know some of them spoke English.
Yes.
But the majority of it was Japan.
Yes.
Well, how did you?
Well, I'll tell you, they are required in school from kindergarten on up to learn English. They're required to. So actually, they knew more English than we knew Japanese. They did. But as we stayed there, you learned a lot. You learned a lot about how to speak the language. And they were so accommodating there that they would teach you how to speak the language. There were a lot of people. One of the managers in our group, he actually had married a Japanese young lady, and he knew Japanese fluently. So we were around him a lot, and we learned a lot. So after 5 years, you actually kind of understand how to speak the language. I had my 2 children there in Japan, and my daughter actually spoke Japanese very well while we were there. So it was like the music industry was great. It was awesome there, but it got to be to the point where it was time to come home. And everything is temporary there. I mean, at that time, you couldn't purchase property there. You couldn't really, you know, set your roots down in Japan. At that time, it might be different now. So, and it was just time. My children didn't know my mom and dad, so it was time for me to bring them back. So I came back here, and I thought I still want to do music. And
well, what type of music were you doing? I mean, naturally, you singing contemporary music.
Right.
So, but what was one of your favorites?
It was more jazz, kind of.
You look like a jazz person.
It was
you know,
jazz.
the first time I ever seen you, when your husband was doing his show, and we did the Christmas show. And it was then, and I seen you. I said, "Look at this." And I tried to talk him into making you his co-host. He wasn't going for that.
He's probably busy studying for that bar. That's what she's doing.
But you know, I mean, I enjoyed just singing then. And then one day, I guess when the pandemic came about, and your brother-in-law went to your house to kind of help y'all go virtual. And you were singing this song, Back to Egypt.
Back to Eden.
Back to Eden. Was it Back to Eden?
Back to Eden.
Man, I love that. I still got it on my
Oh, amen.
And I listen to it every time.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love
That's a
you
good
singing.
song. That's a good song. And for us to realize that that's what we're trying to get back to, where it was peace and where, you know, it didn't rain and the dew just came up from the ground and back to where he wanted us to be. Yeah, back to Eden where we
Never
belong.
be. But
so.
I just loved you singing that
Yeah,
song. I
yeah.
really, really
I
did.
enjoyed
I
doing
think I
that.
told your brother-in-law about it too.
Uh-huh.
My friend Kenny Wilkinson. I
That's my
told him
brother-in-law.
about you singing
Uh-huh.
it. And I
Uh-huh.
said, boy, she could sing that song.
Yeah, well, bless your heart. I do like that kind of music, and jazz. I do like gospel music as well. Hymns, I love hymns. We were raised that way. My dad used to walk around the house just humming hymns all the time. So I've grew up in a Christian home, and he just loved music. He was a guitar player, and he just loved music, and so loved to sing. And my mother is so funny, is not a musician at all, but she loved to be around music. So, yep, so I did a little bit of jazz and came here and did some things. I thought I was actually going to really get into it, and I was working at a lounge actually in Cincinnati. It was the Macy's Jazz Festival.
Okay.
And Frankie Beverly was there. And so he was staying in that hotel.
You know Frankie Beverly?
I do know.
I grew up with Frankie
Oh my
Beverly
goodness.
in Philadelphia.
Oh my goodness.
I used to help him unpack his stuff when
Oh,
they used to
wow.
come to this club in North Philadelphia. That's where he first started. And they came to this almost every weekend. They was at this club. So when they was packing up, they was talking about leaving, right? Because I wasn't what you call a roadie or nothing like that. But when they came, and when they was talking about leaving, I was gonna get on that bus. But then I thought about it. I said, wait a minute. I don't play no music. I don't do nothing. I gotta get out there. They kick me.
Get rid of you.
But Frank. The name of the group used to be called, it's called Frankie Beverly and Mays now, but it's actually, the real name is Frankie Beverly and the Raw Soul.
Oh, wow.
That was their first
Well,
name.
I knew them when they were Frankie Beverly and Mays, and when they would come to Macy's Jazz Festival every year. So that was and I don't remember what year it was, but he came and they stayed in the hotel there, and I was singing in the lounge.
Okay.
And so after the Jazz Festival was over, and he came in the lounge, and we talked, really nice person.
Yes, he is.
And so much so that he said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you some money, and I want you to do a demo for me. And I'm so excited. So I bought this equipment and did the demo and didn't like the demo and waited before I sent it to him. By the time, in those days, it may be the same way now, but I mean, you got to do it now. You got to do it now. You can't wait. You can't hesitate. And what I did is I waited too long. So by the time I did get it to him, he was like, I'm working on my project now. So that's priority right now. So it just, and I thought, when I think back on it, it just wasn't meant to be. And it's okay. God just had another plan for me. It was another purpose for me in life. And so I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he definitely was a catalyst for me trying to do. So I was writing a lot of music at the time and never did anything. It's just kind of sitting in my room now, but in my office now, but it was a good catalyst for me to do that. And then from that point, I found myself actually kind of, introspect and like, what is it I want to do? All along, though, in the background, everything I was doing, I was always at a law firm somewhere.
Right.
So I know that was probably the basis for what I should end up doing while doing everything else, because I was always at a law firm. And so with the music, I find myself then actually going to services at a church, and then I walked in the door. I'll never forget, one of the members was like, they had their choir singing, and she's like, you're gonna be over our choir one day. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna be over no choir. No, I'm not. I tell her that story all the time and she laughs. Now I'm the minister of music there, but I was like, oh Lord, no, not this choir. But there was another plan, and so that's why I say we have to not be weary in well doing. Just continue to strive to do whatever it is you want to do. And in the meantime, other things are working out on your behalf.
That's right.
They really are. So I ended up playing for that church, being the minister of music there. And then that's when my husband came to Mount Zion in Middletown. And
well, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break.
We're going to
I want you to get yourself together, because we have to leave the secondary music alone.
All right. And
we're going to move on.
We're done with that. Okay.
So what we're going to do is we'll take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back.
All right. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
They've stormed beaches and freed countries. protected the weak, and defeated the strong. Shown courage and compassion. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
Hey, we're back to You Don't Know My Story. I'm finding out some interesting stories here. This is the first time that I really interact with my guests, but I am really enjoying this, all the stuff that's going on. And come to find out, she knew somebody that I knew in the music business, and I don't even sing. But you know what? We never know who we get a chance to meet and what it is that we do. So here we go. We're gonna be right. We're back with Miss Patricia Wilkinson, and what we're gonna kind of go in a different direction this time. We're not gonna dwell on it, because this is not that type of show, but I need to let you know that she is a wife of a pastor, and she's a minister herself. So, Ms. Wilkinson?
Well, just to talk about my experiences with that, it was just, I was working as a minister of music, as I said, at my church, and Pastor Wilkinson came, wasn't the pastor at the time, and it was just something that was supposed to happen. I had, no idea. It just was, he loved music, I love music. He loved what he did. I loved what the ministry that we did. And so with that in mind, we just ended up together. We have a blended family, and, blended families are sometimes difficult, but oh my goodness, it's not with us. It's just a great family dynamic. We all get along and do really well. I will just, share that as far as the ministry is concerned, like you said, I won't dwell on it too much, but I really do want to share with those that are in it, to just stay steadfast in it. And we need it. We need to just encourage one another. We need to, this is a time in life that we've never seen before. We've never experienced such dramatic situations all at one time. And you talked about it at the beginning of the show with the pandemic, with the racial unrest, with the fires now, and we're just trying to understand what it is. But I'm finding that people are really finding more about themselves if they want to. You really can do some introspect and find out about yourself, some things that you've been so busy rushing around doing. If we were, if everything was open, you wouldn't be able to sit back at the house and say, what gift do I really have? What is it that I can contribute? What is it I've been wanting to do for all these years and haven't been able to do, but now I have the time to do it. So I'm going back to that, reaping and sowing. It's a great time to sow into whatever it is you want to do, and I encourage that. So I'm seeing my girlfriends with this jewelry. They're selling the jewelry online, and one girlfriend, I'm like, she's such an introvert. I can't even see her getting in front of people doing it, but she's doing it, and I'm so excited for her. And I'm seeing people, my brother's like writing songs, and this is a brother who hasn't done that kind of thing in a long time. And I got a sister-in-law who always wanted to play piano. She's taking piano lessons, and, in her house. And so there are so many things inside of us that we're able to pull out, right? And with that, we're sharing with one another. We're encouraging one another. And this is the time for that. And so I'm excited. I know there's a lot of things that have been happening. I know there's a lot of calamities. And I realize that. I'm not minimizing it. But on the flip side of that, sometimes we got to see how should we really be viewing all of this? And really, it's a new thing that's happening in the world. And so get in on it. My mantra, my slogan is keep it moving. Whatever's going on, keep it moving. Keep it. And if I'm going to cry a while, it's the season to cry, I'm going to cry, but then I'm going to keep it moving. Because it's time to really look into yourselves and say, okay, let me be the best of who I am. And what is that? What does that look like? So explore it. If that doesn't work, do something else. If that doesn't work, do something else. Until you find out, okay, I'm able to do all of these things, and didn't realize I had it in me all along. But you did.
It's funny that you say that, because I think it was about 3 months before the pandemic actually really hit, when we were able to go into our churches. And I remember being at my Sunday church, because I go to 2 different churches. I go to one on Saturday and one on Sunday. And they've been trying to get me to preach, because I'm a minister also, right? And they've been trying to get me to preach, and I was saying, that's not what God ordered for me. This is not it. He got me minister of photography and all this other, because that's what my church in Philadelphia, you put me under minister of photography, because I was into the acting and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so they was asking me, and one day, God just gave me a sermon. And the sermon was called, "It's Not a Test, It's a Warning."
Oh, wow.
So I told the pastor about it. So he says, well, when are you going to do it? When are you going to preach it? I say, when God tells me when. I'm not doing it unless he tells me when. And about a couple months ago, he gave me the signal, I want you to preach that sermon. And it's so funny, because I told the pastor, matter of fact, we was on Zoom then, and I told the pastor after we did our service on Zoom, and I told him, I said, I gave him the date, and I said, this is the day that God want me to do that sermon. I told him what it was about, what it was. Everybody knew about it. I just never did it. So he said, okay. 2 weeks before it was time to do it, he said I couldn't do it.
Oh, wow.
He said, well, it was Father's Day,
the
day that I was supposed to do it. So he wanted the co-pastor of the church to bring in the message, because and I ain't gonna lie, I kind of got a little teeth. I got a little teeth, because I was like, y'all been begging me. God gave me the signal to go ahead and do it. You say I could do it. Then 2 weeks before the thing, then you're going to tell me I can't. And I was kind of like, I didn't say nothing to him, but I was kind of going to it. And then he called me. He called me on the phone. He says, I want you to do your sermon the following Sunday, right? Because I had already said I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. But anyway, he asked me to do it. And we did it on Zoom. And I'm not going to lie. I thought I couldn't get it out, but I got it out. I was a little nervous.
Yes.
And
that's good. You should be nervous.
I was a little nervous, but I did. And what they liked about it was beyond the fact that I began at the beginning with Genesis. How God warned Adam not to eat of the fruit. And it went down the line, and if you read in the Bible, it tells you he warned man a long time ago. He's still warning us, and what the church members really loved it. I thought they would say, man, they said they liked the fact that I did scripture.
What's interesting is that you have to do what you're supposed to do. And after you've done that, leave it alone. Like, you can't analyze it.
Right.
It's so funny. I'm sitting here listening to you. That's another thing about a lawyer, too. We listen.
Right.
Like, where we're supposed to. We're supposed to listen. So I'm listening to what you're saying and really, really digesting what you're saying. And what we cannot do is determine whether or not what we did was okay.
Right.
All we're supposed to do is do it.
Do it.
That's all we're supposed to do. So this show, I can't. When I'm done with this show, look, I did it. Was it okay? That's up to whoever. But seriously, I have to do my best at what I do.
Right.
Whatever it is. If I'm singing, if I'm with a client, if I have to have integrity and do the best that I can do. After that, keep it moving.
Well,
I got to keep it moving. And so I understand that feeling where he's like, I'm so anxious. I want to preach this. I want to preach this word, and they say no. And it's like, well, maybe that's not the audience to hear you. That's not the group that should have heard you. And we just have to have confidence in what's happening in our lives that we don't, determine. We just, okay, I'll do it the next time. I'll just do what I'm supposed to do.
Well, you remember that dream I told you about, right?
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember the dream?
Look, he tell me about it.
Wait a minute. I told you and Leon about how I came to your church.
Oh, okay. Okay, anyway. I think we're going to cut this segment of the show. No,
But look,
no, he said he had a wife. I think
No,
he
I
saw
didn't have a wife.
What was it?
No,
Somebody that you were going to marry?
No, it was somebody, I don't know. I mean, it just came out of nowhere. But you and Leon was in the dream.
Right.
But we're going to leave it alone.
Okay.
Because we're getting ready to go into, we getting ready to take another break. And after this break, Miss Wilkinson is going to end our show with a beautiful, beautiful song.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Posen and I work in the emergency department. Here is something that I've been asked a lot lately. I have a fever, cough, and shortness of breath. What should I do? These are symptoms of a respiratory illness. If you're experiencing mild respiratory symptoms, you should stay at home. Restrict outside activities, avoid public areas such as work and school, and avoid public transportation. Treat symptoms with rest, plenty of fluids, and over-the-counter medications as appropriate. Separate yourself from others as much as possible, staying in a separate room and using a separate bathroom if available. Be alert to changing symptoms and seek prompt medical attention if your symptoms are getting worse, such as difficulty breathing. Before visiting a healthcare provider, call ahead to tell them that you are experiencing symptoms related to COVID-19. If you're having a medical emergency, call 911 and notify the dispatch agent that you are having COVID-19 related symptoms. For more information about COVID-19, visit health.pa.gov.
Just want to sing this song for you before I go. One of my favorites. I really love you. I really love you. Because you first loved me. I really love you. Yes, I do. I really love you. I really love you. Because you first loved me. I really love you. Yes, I do. Oh! I really love you. Because you first loved me. I know you did. I really love you. Yes, I do. How can you love me knowing all the things I've done? And then you showed me when you gave your only son. I really love you. I really love you. Yes, I do. How can you love me? Knowing all the things I've done, and then you showed me when you gave your only son. I really love you. Oh yeah, I really love you. Yes, I do. I really love you. I love you for all you've done for me. Because you first loved me even when I didn't love you. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are the air that I breathe in. You're the song that I sing in. Compare to all the joy you bring to me. Oh, yes, I love you. Oh, with all my heart. Oh, yes, I love you. With all my soul. I really love you. Yeah. Lord, I love you. You know I love you. With all my heart. You know I love you. With all my soul. Because you first loved me. I really love. Yes. Because you first loved me. I really love you. Yes, I do. Because you
Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I really enjoyed
I
that.
have too.
I had a good time.
I did too.
A very, very good time. Very good time. Hey, remember Miss Patricia Wilkinson? She's a lawyer. She's a recording artist. And she's also a minister.
Amen. God bless you. Good to
We
see
want
you.
to say thank you for enjoying the show today. And next month, you think she was something. Wait till next month, my birthday show. I got a chef coming in here that's going to tear this place down. He even told me to tell the staff here, do not buy no lunch because he's making everything. So that's next month. But what I want to say is thank you so much. I enjoyed you. And remember, can't nobody tell your story like you can.
Bye-bye.
Bye.